A frustrated magistrate leans across his desk, brandishing a silver crucifix in the stifling heat of an Algerian afternoon. He is furiously demanding to know why the man sitting opposite him fired a gun at a prostrate body. While the magistrate pleads for a display of remorse, the man in the chair, Meursault, is entirely detached. Instead of engaging with the emotional weight of the question, Meursault is merely irritated by the buzzing of large flies and the oppressive temperature in the room. Meursault is sitting in this office because he recently shot a man to death on a beach. He freely admits it. There is absolutely no mystery about who pulled the trigger, and his guilt is not in question. Yet the magistrate and the defense lawyers keep circling back to an entirely different event. They are heavily fixated on Meursault's behavior a few weeks prior, specifically his apparent lack of grief and callous demeanor at his own mother's funeral. The investigators are encountering a man who registers the world almost exclusively through immediate physical sensations. To make sense of his crime, society is desperately attempting to impose rational, emotional meaning onto someone who simply does not care. The chain of events began with a vague telegram from a nursing home. "Your mother passed away. Funeral tomorrow." Meursault read the message and noted that she might actually have died yesterday. He couldn't be sure, and his reaction was entirely ambiguous. During the overnight vigil and the long walk to the cemetery, he didn't weep or offer solemn reflections. He registered only the blinding glare of the sun off the road, the agonizing heat, and how exhausted his legs felt. His indifference quietly offended the warden of the home. The warden, wearing a Legion of Honor rosette on his lapel, represented the strict institutional rules and the emotional decorum that society expects from a grieving son. Meursault's actions the very next day were highly inappropriate by any societal standard. He went for a swim at the public baths, ran into a former coworker named Marie, and immediately began a physical romance with her. Later that evening, to cap off the weekend, Meursault took Marie to the movies. He specifically chose to watch a popular, light-hearted comedy starring Fernandel less than 24 hours after watching The Dirt hit his mother's coffin. His mother's death held zero internal weight for him. His life remained unchanged. He woke up, he felt hungry, he wanted to be touched, and he acted purely on those immediate physical desires. This passive drift defined his daily routine. When his boss offered him an opportunity to transfer to an office in Paris, Meursault turned it down indifferently, pointing out that one life is as good as another, and he saw no reason to change his. When Marie asked him if he loved her and wanted to get married, he offered a hollow response. He told her that love had no real meaning, but he would marry her if it would give her pleasure. He ended up becoming friends with his neighbor, Raymond, a man widely known to be violent and abusive. Meursault agreed to hear him out and spend time with him simply because it took less effort than saying no. That same casual apathy led Meursault to write a cruel letter on Raymond's behalf. The letter was designed to lure Raymond's mistress back to his apartment so she could be beaten. Meursault didn't write it out of active malice. He just didn't see any reason to refuse. He floats downstream, completely untethered from moral anchors. He makes his choices based entirely on the path of least resistance. This total reliance on physical sensation eventually backed him into a corner. On a Sunday trip to a seaside bungalow, the beach was trapped under a blistering, almost vertical sun. The glare from the water seared the eyes. A group of men holding a grudge against Raymond followed them to the water. A fight broke out on the sand, leaving Raymond with a knife wound to the arm and mouth. A short time later, Meursault returned to the beach alone, feeling physically cornered. The heat was immense. He felt the intense light pressing against his back, his temples swelling as the sun pounded the shore. He walked toward a small rock, seeking shade, only to find one of the men from the earlier fight lying there. The Arab drew his knife. A shaft of light shot upward from the steel blade, flashing directly into Meursault's sweat-filled eyes. Blind and overwhelmed by the searing heat, his grip closed on a revolver he was carrying for Raymond. The trigger gave way. The first crisp shot shattered the silence of the beach. Then, inexplicably, he paused. The tension held for a brief moment in the thick air, before Meursault fired 4 additional shots into the inert body. There was no calculated revenge or emotional outburst driving his finger. The murder was a mechanical, absurd reaction to a massive overload of heat, light, and physical stress. Back in the present, this explanation completely fails to satisfy the magistrate. The legal system is horrified by his total lack of expected remorse. When the magistrate begs him to seek forgiveness from God, Meursault flatly refuses to lie about his feelings. Exhausted and defeated, the magistrate sinks into his chair and dubs him Mr. Antichrist. After a single chaotic visit from Marie, the physical reality of his situation sets in. Sitting in solitary confinement, watching the light shift through the iron bars, Meursault realizes his cell is a dead end. His permanent entrapment is real. During his trial, the prosecution barely focuses on the dead man on the beach. Instead, they hammer away at Meursault's behavior at his mother's funeral. The justice system intends to punish him entirely for his refusal to perform the emotional theatricality that society expects. Meursault remains a stranger to the world to the very end. He is condemned to the guillotine for pulling a trigger, but he is executed because he absolutely refuses to lie to a society that demands a performance. If you found this breakdown of The Stranger insightful, share your favorite classic novels in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to World Classic Stories.